What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're back for another mock draft Monday, but rather than giving you guys a 2024 rookie mock draft, I figured why don't we just review a mock draft done by Lance Zierlein over at NFL.com. He gave us a mock draft just after the NFL Combine. I want to talk about where he has some of these players going, some of the possible scenarios, and then give you guys my opinions based on the landing spots that Lance picked. So without wasting any more time, why don't we just hop into today's video and let's start talking about this mock draft by Lance Zierlein. So as you guys can see, we got it pulled up on the screen here. Lance Zierlein's 2.0 draft analyst over at NFL. It was done on March 4th, so we're about a week after it's come out, but I still think there is some good talking points to this. So let's just scroll down. Let's talk about some of these landing spots because the first couple players you guys are going to see off the board is the quarterbacks in this class. We know that the top three quarterbacks in this class are a strong point for it. We have Caleb Williams going to the Chicago Bears, Jayden Daniels going to the Washington Commanders, and Drake Maye going to the New England Patriots. So obviously, I think we all expect Caleb Williams to be the number one pick. Justin Fields likely being traded out of Chicago. And with that being said, they would move on with Caleb Williams as the franchise centerpiece at that quarterback position. We know Caleb Williams is talented as all hell. I think we all expect him to go one-on-one, and this would be an upgrade for the Chicago Bears. Whether you are a Fields believer or not, this should be an upgrade for the Chicago Bears. So with that being said, we don't really need to talk too much more about Caleb Williams, but what I think is interesting is the landing spot for Jayden Daniels. You have Jayden Daniels, a rushing type of quarterback who does have the arm talent as well. Kind of reminds me of Kyler Murray, and the offensive coordinator there is Cliff Kingsbury, who did help develop Kyler Murray into a professional quarterback. Obviously has been very good for our fantasy football teams. So you have Jayden Daniels go to the Washington Commanders. He gets Terry McLaurin. Zach Ertz is now there as a tight end, Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, and a whole lot of cap space that they can use to improve this offense even more. I love the landing spot for Jayden Daniels, and I think that there could be some people, and I'm not saying that this is going to be correct, but I think that there is going to be some people that would prefer Jayden Daniels in Washington over Caleb Williams in Chicago. Like I said, I don't know if that is the right move to make, but I do think that that could happen. Now we get to the third quarterback, and obviously the third quarterback here is going to be Drake Maye. Drake Maye goes to the New England Patriots. They just re-signed Kendrick Bourne. That's not super exciting. They also have a lot of cap space as well. Hopefully they can add some more talent to this team, because as it sits right now, the New England Patriots are by far one of the worst landing spots for a rookie quarterback in the top 12. Now, I don't like what they have in place right now in New England to be able to support a rookie quarterback. To me, Drake Maye has all of the talent in the world. He has all of those physical intangibles that you want to see out of a quarterback, but I think he needs to refine these things. I think he needs to get a little bit more development underneath his belt. That way he can turn into a really good professional quarterback, and I don't know if the infrastructure in New England is there for him to get that development that he's going to need. This would put a little bit of a pause for me for Drake Maye if he gets this landing spot. And not that I'm pushing him outside of my top 5, but at this point, I think I would probably rather take a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. or a guy like Malik Nabers, even if he gets a good landing spot, over a guy like Drake Maye if this were his landing spot. But with that being said, we move on down now. You see at number 4, this is the eye-opening experience of this mock draft. And I don't understand it, but whatever, I guess. Malik Nabers gets drafted over Marvin Harrison Jr. He is the wide receiver 1 off the board. He goes to the Arizona Cardinals, and maybe it's just that time of the year, Lance, where you've done a couple mock drafts and you want to do something different. We got to get the clicks. I get it. I get it, man. But Marvin Harrison Jr. should be the wide receiver 1 off the board. He will be the wide receiver 1 off the board. And yes, this is a very good landing spot for Malik Nabers. If this were to actually happen, I think this would be very, very good for Malik Nabers. Being able to be the wide receiver 1 for Kyler Murray, being able to have the draft capital that he gets in this mock draft, all of those things are going to be very good for Malik Nabers. I think at this point, he would be a top 24 startup pick for you in your startup drafts. He would be a guy who probably would be in consideration at the 103, 104 range if Malik Nabers gets the number 4 pick to Arizona. But I just don't really see a scenario where a team would go Malik Nabers over Marvin Harrison Jr. But I guess I get it for Lance Zierlein right here. Let's do something different. Let's see what happens. But I just don't think this is the scenario that happens. So now moving on, at number 5, you see right here at the top of the screen, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. And I was knocking the Malik Nabers pick. And again, I still don't think that will happen. But if it does, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is the wide receiver 1 for Justin Herbert, holy hell, this would be electric. You get a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Justin Herbert paired together. This feels kind of like Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. And that might make some people mad. But I think this would be electric for fantasy football. This is a guy who we deem as the rookie wide receiver 1. I think in startups right now, he is the 5th wide receiver off of the board in startup drafts, which puts him only behind guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that is the list of wide receivers that are going above Marvin Harrison Jr. But you put him here with Justin Herbert, I think the ceiling is sky high for Marvin Harrison, and a Justin Herbert stack would be so fun to see. I just don't know if that's going to happen with Malik Nabers number 1, but I guess we could see potentially a team like Arizona trade out of that number 4 spot. And if this were the first spot for Marvin Harrison Jr., holy hell, sign me up. I'm all in. So now we move down this mock draft just a little bit, and where we have our next fantasy relevant player is going to be number 9 right here. JJ McCarthy goes to the Denver Broncos. You see there is a trade here. They said Russell Wilson's on his way out. They make a trade. They go up. They get a guy like JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy, QB4 off the board in this draft. I like JJ McCarthy enough to confidently call him the QB4 in this class. For me, I wish that this would be a scenario where he could have a little bit more infrastructure around him, similar to the idea of what I was talking about with Drake Maye. I mean, we know that the Denver Broncos just traded Jerry Jeudy away. They have Cortland Sutton. They have Greg Dulcich at the tight end, Javonte Williams. The offensive line is pretty mediocre. They did just cut Justin Simmons. There's a lot of transitioning happen here in Denver, and I don't know if it is the right kind of formula to help develop a guy like JJ McCarthy, similar to Drake Maye, but even more so than Drake Maye. JJ McCarthy is going to need a lot of development at the next level, and I think he can thrive in the right situation. Denver, not sure if that's for him, but if this is the case, I can't imagine a scenario where JJ McCarthy is falling outside of the top 7, top 8 picks in your Superflex rookie drafts. The draft capital says it all here for JJ McCarthy, and I think this is a likely scenario because I think JJ is going to get drafted pretty highly in the NFL draft, whether it's Denver, whether it's Atlanta, whether it is a Minnesota. These are the teams that are going to be looking for a guy like JJ McCarthy. It could even be the Raiders. He's going to go high. Somebody's going to come up and get him. It's just a matter of who. Now, let's keep it moving down this mock draft. You see here at the 12th overall pick, the Chicago Bears, they traded down with Denver. They still get a guy like Rome Odunze to add to this offense. Rome gets to play alongside DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, maybe even a free agent running back. We've heard rumors of Saquon Barkley and other players just like that. Josh Jacobs even in consideration. Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams, DJ Moore. Dude, this offense would be pretty damn good. As bad as the Chicago Bears have been in the NFL, it looks like these days are pretty much coming to an end. They should be good, and you get a guy like Rome Odunze, pair him with Caleb Williams. Talking about that stack of Justin Herbert and Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe not as good as them, but Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams, I can't imagine many stacks in fantasy football I would rather have than those guys. This would be very, very good for your Dynasty rookie drafts, and again, everything we want to see, draft capital and landing spot wise, opportunity wise. Rome Odunze would complement DJ Moore very well, and I would love the landing spot for Rome Odunze here. Now, moving on to our next fantasy relevant player, you see right here at 15, we have Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia, going to the Indianapolis Colts. He would pair up with Anthony Richardson, Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Josh Downs. This would be a very solid offense in the AFC South. Anybody who had been holding out hope for Jelani Woods, sorry, Brock Bowers lands here. He is instantly tight end 1 in Indianapolis. And this is a guy who is also being drafted very highly in startups. When we talk about the tight end position, there's only one player being drafted in startups ahead of Brock Bowers right now. That is Sam Laporta, and then it's Brock. So the expectation is very high for Brock Bowers in your tight end premium leagues. It's yet to be seen how Anthony Richardson uses the tight end position here in this offense, but it's hard to imagine that you spend top 15 draft capital on a tight end like Brock Bowers, as good as he is in the receiving game, in the blocking game, everything that he does so well. Hard to imagine he wouldn't be a big part of this offense. So Brock Bowers, 15 to the Indianapolis Colts. And again, those are probably the guys that fall in this top 8 of your rookie drafts. And I think that should be the expectation with them moving forward. So we're going to keep it pushing down this mock draft. You see, as we get going down a little bit more, we have our next fantasy relevant player here at pick 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Brian Thomas Jr. is drafted, another LSU wide receiver. Joe Burrow, LSU. Jamar Chase, LSU. Brian Thomas, LSU. It's just Cincinnati, LSU at this point. That's what it is. And again, we have T. Higgins, who comes back on the franchise tag, wide receiver 2 right now. This gives Cincinnati some flexibility. Maybe they want to tag and trade a guy like T. Higgins. Maybe they just want to let T. Higgins play this year, let Brian Thomas develop as that wide receiver 3. We know Tyler Boyd is a free agent, kind of use him in that Tyler Boyd role, even though they are very different wide receivers. But this could very well give them the flexibility to move on from T. Higgins here at the end of this year that he's playing under the franchise tag. I like this pick. I think this would be very good for Brian Thomas. He wouldn't have to be a number 1 wide receiver for an offense right away. And I think that's going to be very good for his development because he's not a super complete route runner at this point. He's not a super complete, well-rounded wide receiver at this point. He is a elite deep threat, in my opinion. I think he would do very well with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and these guys here in Cincinnati. And this gives him some time to find out who he is as a wide receiver at the next level. So now we're going to work our way down into the late half of the first round. And the next fantasy relevant player for us is going to be here at pick 28. Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas, had a killer combine. Dude ran a hella fast 40. 4.34 was the time. Not necessarily a 40 that we expected. The tape looks good. Kind of has these shades, this reminiscent kind of feel of what CeeDee Lamb was as a prospect coming out of Oklahoma. At least that's what guys like Brett Coleman and some of these other guys are saying on Twitter. And I trust Brett a lot. Also, I see it in the tape as well. I see it. I don't know if I would stamp that as the comp for Adonai Mitchell. That's a little bit overzealous, I think, for Adonai Mitchell. But when you look at this landing spot, he would go into a scenario here where I don't know if we would love the landing spot for Adonai Mitchell. And I say that because A.J. Brown is there. Devontae Smith is there. I think right away we can say both of those guys are going to receive more targets than a guy like Adonai Mitchell. Now you have Dallas Goedert. They're going to have somebody at the running back position. Jason Kelce has retired. Jalen Hurts regressed a tiny bit last year. Let's see what happens here in Philadelphia. I think you would kind of need to wait and see with Adonai Mitchell, and this would pump the brakes on a guy like Adonai Mitchell. The draft capital, obviously good. We want that first round pedigree out of the wide receiver, but at the end of the day, we also are looking for opportunity, and I don't know if there is a lot of opportunity for Adonai, at least as a rookie here in Philadelphia. And it kind of feels similar to what has happened with Jackson Smith-Njigba when he went to the Seattle Seahawks, had to play behind DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, a lower passing volume offense. It kind of feels all the same. And I think that would really pump the brakes on a guy like Adonai Mitchell, who many people have now moved up into their top 5 wide receivers in this class, myself included. A guy who I think should get first round rookie draft pick capital, but this would really temper those expectations, I think, for Adonai Mitchell and would kind of open up the door for other wide receivers to creep into the first round of your rookie draft. So as we move down just a little bit more, we have the last fantasy relevant wide receiver coming off the board here in this mock draft. You see Xavier Worthy goes to the Kansas City Chiefs here with the last pick in the first round. This is, I think, super hype train material. This is Xavier Worthy going out, running that 4.2. Talk about a killer combine. Xavier Worthy had one of those. Explosiveness, all the athleticism measurables, checked all of those boxes for scouts. The only issue is he's 165 pounds. I think that is not a nail in the coffin. We've obviously seen guys like Tank Dell, who weighed a little bit lighter, come in and have NFL success. But holy hell, this is going to make him a one-dimensional type of player, a deep threat, a speedy type of wide receiver. He's not necessarily the greatest route runner. He also doesn't have the most reliable, most consistent hands. I think you put him here with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. You pair that with what everybody remembers in that 40-yard dash. We're going to lose our minds. People are going to lose their minds. You're going to see Xavier Worthy get drafted way higher than he should be, way higher than the tape tells us he should be. And that's going to be an issue for you, but it's going to open up opportunity for you guys to get values, to get better wide receivers later in your drafts. I'm not saying that Xavier Worthy is going to be bad. I don't think he's going to be a bad NFL wide receiver, but this is a recipe to just stir up the community and get everybody excited. And I get it. I think he's probably worked his way way into this type of situation based on the combine, a team's going to see that speed and they're going to say, hey, this is our guy. Let's take a chance. And I think this could happen with Xavier Worthy, but I think he's still a guy that I'm considering in that 112, maybe 203 type of range. Those 4 picks right there is more so where I would consider Xavier Worthy, not a guy that I would be taking 109, which I think you could see happen if he goes to the Kansas City Chiefs and pairs up with Patrick Mahomes. But all right, guys, that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys do like this type of video where we review a mock draft, talk about the players, talk about the prospects, talk about the landing spots, the repercussions of these landing spots, let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, the best thing you can do for me is hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. And also make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel and hitting that notification bell. That way you guys never miss a future upload. And last but not least, make sure you guys are a member of our free Discord. We do have a free Discord linked in the description. That is where I take submissions for future Dynasty trade shows, future mock drafts, all of these things. We're also helping you guys out with your fantasy football teams moving forward, helping you win Dynasty Fantasy Football Championships, because that's what we play for, that's what we want to do, and that's what I'm there to help you guys to do. So make sure you guys go join that Discord. Like I said, free to join, so there is no risk in doing that. And with all of that out of the way, I will see you guys on our next video. But until then, peace out.